you obviously have a working relationship with Kevin Durant over at the Brooklyn Nets, and when you look at what they're trying to do in Brooklyn, what do you make of where they're at right now with James Harden as well as Kyrie and Kevin? I would deem it the East Coast Big Three.
I'm really happy with where they're at. And I think you saw the other day, like, this is going to be a constant process. And even while it's a process, it doesn't mean that they can't win at the highest level. I mean, Miami's first year would be considered a process, but they lost in the finals. So I think that you're going to see bumps along the way, but it's less about the three of them and more about the fact that, like, in order to get three players of that caliber, your roster gets thin. And then when your roster gets thin, players have to step up into roles they're not used to, and players have to learn how to play with players of their caliber. And, you know, and you see Kevin James and Kai will figure it out. When you're at that level and that level of IQ of basketball, I mean, Kyrie is more than happy, and you saw it, to get right off the ball and let James have the rock. And Kai still finds ample shots. KD still finds ample shots, and they're just getting better. Like, you know, KD definitely doesn't think he's all the way back, which is frightening.
Speaking of that, should people be surprised that he is back and playing at the level that he's playing at, despite an injury that most people thought he wouldn't be able to beat Kevin Durant coming back on that injury?
Well, first of all, I think, and Jay, you know this, like, within our circle, there was a unanimous thought, like, all right, so it's a year, and you'll be back in a year, and you'll be KD. It was never even a thought. The reality is what the reality is. I think we all thought his game, and everyone said that his game wasn't predicated on, like, if he was to lose a quarter of an inch of a step, right? The difference between KD and most of the world is that never can compromise hard work, and you know that. And I saw in Kevin's eyes the day he had the injury, he was the calmest person in the room. And that same kind of mentality he took throughout the whole thing. He has an insane ability to put blinders on and stay in the moment, stay in the drill. You know, like when a normal person has an injury and they go to rehab and the doctor says, look, after the session, when you go home, why don't you do like 12 more of those leg lifts? And you're like, all right, I'm not doing them shit. I'm never doing that. KD listens to every single thing the doctor tells him. He pushes himself when he's by himself. He's stretching muscles that he read could help the rehab process. So, you know, I'm not surprised. And his IQ for the game is off the charts.
Is there any way that with the direction the Knicks are going in, and I know it's slightly better, but you know what I mean, the way the Knicks are going, the way the Nets could be going, any chance in hell the Nets could ever be bigger than the Knicks?
Well, so in the moment, obviously.
I'm dying to hear how you answer this one, Rich.
Yeah, because, this is an easy one. In the moment, obviously, right? Like if the Mets or the Jets get to the championship game or the finals, like they're going to take the coverage in New York for that moment. They're not the better and bigger team. That's so ingrained in the culture in New York over such a long period of time. There's not much you can do about that. But the one thing about New York, similar to L.A., is like there's not a ceiling. There's not a limit to the amount of fans. So I think the Nets are going to be a global phenomenon over the next few years a bit, the way the Warriors were, the Heat, et cetera. And I think that they're going to be a major, major force in New York from a brand perspective and just taking the attention of the city. In the long term, do I think the Nets will be New York's team? No, that's the Knicks. But Brooklyn will carve out their own lane. And I think that's the thing about the NBA is this is a booming entertainment business. And, like, from a fan perspective, they don't see it that way. But the reality is like the Nets have their own aesthetic, their own arena. They have an owner that's been insanely successful. And they're now building a foundation which started with, like, playing hard and playing together. Now they've attracted three of the biggest players in the world. And that doesn't just go away. Like, the stigma around the Heat, even though they've been successful post-LeBron, like, you know, LeBron, Riley, they put that thing on forever. So that's what I think is going to happen with the Nets. And you'll just have two big brands in New York.
Rich, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, just want to let you know the Clippers will never, ever, 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 ever be relevant in Los Angeles. Just saying.
Yeah,
wow,
but no. Relevant? They're not ever going to be the Lakers, but they're not relevant?
No.
Come on, Key. They'll be relevant. Stop.
I'm just being
They
honest.
are relevant.
Stop.
No.
Yo, I will bet you on that, Key, because when you get an owner with that money and that charisma and you have a city of Los Angeles, if you win, there's just room for two, bro. It's not going to be the Lakers.
It's not the same.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN Plus right now.